always thought he was a little bit off, a little bit, not like firing on all cylinders. Maybe residue, whatever he does. But
But
he
we'll
seemed
jump
pretty
into
co-
it.
he
We'll,
seemed
it's,
pretty coherent yesterday.
yeah, and we can just graze over that
Yeah, no
just for
worries.
to set the record straight. But here we are back today, a special combined podcast. We have none other than WCW, Japan MMA fighter, UFC legend. He's fought all over the place, street fighting legend, particularly in Huntington Beach, California, David Tank Abbott. And to help us with some WCW questions that John has been telling me about for years now, you got to get me on with Tank to ask these WCW questions that I'm dying to ask because he's a WCW expert. And I was actually just to jump into that quickly. I was just rewatching some of your stuff with 3 Count the other day.
Yeah.
The songs were better than I remembered.
Well, yeah, that was a good time. Very good time.
So to start it off here, someone says, "Here we go." Oh, there you go. Mike loved when you danced with 3 Count. Well, we're gonna get it. We're gonna get deeper into 3 Count later, but we did an interview with Mark Coleman where he mentioned that you were a crappy pro wrestler, and I guess he also had mentioned that there's a fight story of you talking about this fight that you had with Mark Coleman that has almost 1 million views. It's about 100,000 shy of 1 million on YouTube
Yeah.
from our first interview. He's saying you're not telling the story truthfully, so maybe you can clear the air on all of it to start off here.
Well, I always tell the truth. So his version and my version, I don't think they're too much different. So I don't even know what he thinks happened and where the discrepancies are between the two stories. But whatever, it was a long time ago, and it was like not a big deal. Um, just some Brazilian guys got mouthy, and one sucker punched me, and everything broke loose, and it was going crazy. And then finally, Bob Meyerowitz, who owned the show at the time, screamed at the top of his lungs, like, "Everybody stop! You're costing me a lot of money." And it was kind of the catalyst, if you will, for everybody to stop and just look around and go, "Hey, what the hell are we doing?" And that was the end of it. But
Good question here, quickly, just to interrupt from a fan here.
uh,
How is Mark Coleman so poor?
you know, who knows? It's not for me to answer, but I don't even know if he is poor or what have you. But um, you know, life comes and goes, ups and downs, ebbs and flows. Who knows? It's all written wherever he's supposed to be. He's at. So who knows? He might be the richest man in the world, hanging out with Elon next before you know it.
Well, he has been hanging out with the Liver King as well, which actually you called it the day before because you talked to me about the Mark Coleman thing and you
Yeah.
mentioned he's hanging out with the Liver King and this guy's about to crack, and then he literally cracked the next day.
Well, yeah. Well, what can you say? That's kind of an interesting story. Um, what Imagine being Joe Rogan and having justifiably a nut job like that coming to your hometown looking to fight you. I mean, for me, I'd go, I'll meet you at the front door, but I don't think Joe is appreciating it very much. But
Well, and also the pictures where like he has the logo with a big weapon around it that he's
yeah,
showing,
yeah,
and he's holding
absolutely.
2 guns. That's a little bit different than a fight challenge. If he's actually holding weapons, while he might not be directly threatening him, it's like you're insinuating. And what it like? Okay, there's been some people that have accused you of being gay, right? You've
Yeah,
addressed that. Do you
I don't
think?
don't 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 tell too many people.
Yeah. Well, if you okay, you might know a thing or two though. I hear him talking like, oh, it would just be so awesome if Joe Rogan were to choke me out. Oh, that would be just a dream come true. Like, do you think that has like a homosexual side to it?
I think he's just looking for a rise. I don't. I think he just wants an audience. Yeah, he's just looking for an audience. He's not. Truly, I don't believe he's gay, but no, he's looking for attention. Yeah.
And then again for Mark Coleman, Mark had mentioned to me he doesn't think, according to what he says, The Rock is not paying him anything, and he's getting nothing from this upcoming Mark Kerr movie. Where Mark Kerr apparently also told Mark Coleman that he's not getting anything for this big movie, and now Mark Kerr is renting a house like 5 minutes away from you. Do you think it's they're kayfabing us on that, and there is some money coming in, or are they really just allowing their likenesses to be used and helping out with the movie for free?
Well, yeah, I'm sure he's probably getting compensated. Um, yeah. So whose business? Whose business of it is, anyways? Whatever he's making, it's his business, not anybody else's.
Exactly. But I got to ask that as a reporter. And as far as the whole thing with him saying you were a bad WCW wrestler, is that just him because you made more than him, having a personal issue about that?
Well, I've come across a lot of different people in this world, and this life actually travels. And I don't know what makes a guy tick, but if you had any idea, I didn't follow Shamrock into professional wrestling. I didn't do this and that. I just happened to get the best job that was out there at the time, and nobody else did. So I came from the UFC, and I ended up right where I wanted to be. I don't know if anybody else can say that. So if he wants to say that I was a flop or I didn't do what I was supposed to do, that's his prerogative. But you know, it's a lot of things going on in professional wrestling. It's a political minefield, and if you don't know what you're doing, you sit at home for a long time not doing anything, and it's probably where he would be.
Yeah, I believe I believe that I don't know if you heard his story about what happened with him in WWE. I do believe that Jericho probably played a role in why he didn't get the job because, as you said, it's a political minefield, but also clearly it's not a good idea to show up at that under the influence.
Yeah, no, I don't know any particulars behind him trying to get into wrestling or anything for for that matter, anybody in the business. It was a big business. There could have been a lot of people that went there. I know Shamrock had a lot of experience being affiliated with Pancrase, and which is nothing more than stiff wrestling in Japan. And so they were all professional wrestlers already from the get go before they even got into the UFC. So he kind of had the lay of the land from the way I understand it. I could be wrong, but so Shamrock was already a professional wrestler, and it's a whole different ball of wax than real fighting. And you don't find out till you're thrown into the fire, which basically I was. But I'm not complaining. It was the best time of my life, or one of them, one of the best times of my life. I had a good time wrestling.
I heard Al Snow say in an interview that I bought recently from around the 1998 time. He used to corner Dan Severn in those early UFCs, just what the tension was like backstage in those days. And Al, people thought he was a fighter too because it was early enough and there was no YouTube that they'd be trying to intimidate him. We are talking about wrestling. It's very political and backstabbing. Would you say wrestling's more behind your back and MMA's more right in your face if there's issues?
Very much so. And wrestling's all about making money and, you know, not crossing the wrong people, doing the wrong things. And, you know, I guess Severn was in it too. So these guys were all wrestlers. I straight out came from the streets to actually from the jails, from fighting in the streets to straight into the octagon. Um, so it was a little different for me. I wasn't out shopping for a paycheck. I was just doing what I love to do. And he had Severin and all those guys, Fry, all those guys. They all went to Japan, did their thing, and you know what are you gonna do? You know what, Severin, if he would have dyed his hair like Gorgeous George and just was Dan Severin, like you see him on his Instagram stuff, kind of the hokey ho ho ho. Let him run wild, turn him loose. That guy could have been right up there, right next to the Rock.
Yeah, they for whatever reason they didn't book him well, but I think Jim Cornette had heat at that time with The Office. John could probably confirm that because Cornette didn't last that long after, and he was one of Cornette's guys. I think maybe that may have had
Oh,
something to do.
politics right there for you.
But also, I think Severin screwed himself on this. And Tank, you can give me your opinion. And John, you might understand a bit of this too. He insisted that he have a deal where he could still do his training seminars and fight like level MMA shows. So they didn't fully own him. And I think if they don't fully own you, they're not going to give you that Steve Austin push. That's just
Yeah,
my theory.
well, how'd that work out for him?
Yeah.
you know,
And as far as Pat Miletich, he kind of wants to let bygones be bygones. With your past, you guys had a bit conflicting stories. He seems like he's turned into a really different guy than I guess you knew. I never had any dealings with that version of it, but
yeah,
he
yeah.
definitely yeah.
I watched it last night actually because I knew I was going to be on here, and I flipped by and I saw Pat Miltich there, and at some point in time, and this is just paraphrasing or whatever, he come to some realization that I was afraid of him and I ran from him at a fight in Alabama, I believe, which is if you know me, I'm not going to run from anybody, much less a fight. And so he was, I don't know, maybe let's tell a story about somebody more famous than you are, um, and make some hokey BS about it. But in that interview, I come to learn that he believed that he had a brain parasite that was making him act different, and he's cured it. So he seemed like a pretty all right guy on the interview. So let's hope that's true. He cleared his parasite problem, and he seemed to come across okay. He seemed pretty coherent.
Yes.
I ain't got another bad to say about anybody unless they want to bring up stories and say stuff, or you want to break into my truck and steal a check out of it. I'll I'll
Yeah.
hold a torch for you for a long time, right, Tito?
Oh, we got to ask you. I know I already asked you about this privately, but a couple weeks ago, and I'm almost positive that Tito had this planned with his own camera guy planted, and I'm pretty sure he was on his tippy toes when he did this because he's not taller than John Jones, and there's an old wrestler's trick
Oh
in
yeah,
pictures go on your tippy toes when you wait till just the second the camera is going to be taken, and then you go on your tippy toes, and it believe it or not, it works. Believe
yeah,
it or not,
yeah.
it works.
My wife calls that fairy feet, and he had fairy feet with that picture with John Jones.
And what did you think of that? Because it's like, why John Jones? Like, I'll agree with your friend Shale Sonnen because he came out about it and said they probably didn't push too hard because, like, although he has a great record. His only loss is by disqualification from elbows, which it might not even really be a loss, really, because he had the fight won, but he wasn't actually a draw. He didn't hold like a lot of pay-per-view records, doesn't hold like a ton of like attendance records. You don't even really know who he is that well. So it's like, even though he's this super popular or super good fighter, he's not popular to the level of a McGregor or as known as you were. I mean, your friends episode was just on in the gym the other day.
Yeah, yeah.
It had a rerun.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really remember or realize the magnitude of what kind of sway I had going on during those days. But you have to realize I was actually the first real, what I consider, you guys, all the haters out there and all the little ankle biters that are little midgets that need a scale to fight, can say what they want, but there's no weight classes, there are no rules, and there the Gracies had their little jujitsu thing going on. Don't get me wrong, jujitsu works, but it's not really fighting. Not like you'll see in the street. And I take that to the octagon and kind of showed the world what really happens when I go out on the weekends. And so, you know, John Jones and his thing of being popular, we'll get full circle here, you know, that doesn't really matter. They pushed him hard, and to say he was, the goat and all that kind of stuff. But in the long run, it just didn't take. Some guys get over and some guys don't. The it factor, no one knows what it is, but it is it. And actually, see, just I don't know John Jones. Never seen him fight. I really, but I see these little clips with him and that DC guy, and I think those two guys are pretty good for each other. They play off of each other, and I kind of like John Jones's comments and stuff like that. Earlier, I think today they were in some kind of argument, and John Jones was like, just little clips here and there, putting him down, and you could see morally and everything else that DC was just losing his mind over it. I kind of chuckled to myself, and I thought it was kind of funny and entertaining.
The last thing I'll just bring up here for the Liver King, just to close the book on him. I know you would fight him because you're like a barroom brawler, and I don't know what Joe Rogan's net worth is. He's also 10 years older. He's 10 years older than this guy. He's a submission guy. He's a karate guy with kicks. We've heard celebrity boxing is saying they would have it, but like, what good would it do, honestly, in your opinion? Would it do Joe Rogan any good to actually fight this guy? Does he have anything that he needs to prove to the world?
Well, yeah, you got the risk of getting your ass kicked and or kicking the guy's ass, and to a real warrior and someone that doesn't really is a fight for technique or for skill. You just want to kick somebody's ass for being a smartass and disrespectful. That might be worth more than money sometimes. In fact, I know it is because I've done it many times, hundreds.
Yeah, but at
Before,
the same time, you're
before,
elevating him to your level if you suddenly
yeah, who
give him.
cares?
Yeah.
Once you punch their face in, it doesn't really matter, does it? It's like,
When
oh,
what?
I put you over, I got you over, and I recognized you. Well, if you really don't like the guy that much, if someone's on the internet saying, "Oh, I want you," I say, come on over to my house. I'm gonna do
Yeah.
it right at my front door. If you want to bring a camera, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. Like, the thing is, he shouldn't have done all those videos with weapons. I think that was a big mistake on his part because those Texas police don't mess around at all. I've had my own accidental run-ins with them where I
Oh
hadn't
yeah,
actually done anything wrong. But you don't say, I'm coming to Austin. I got
I,
these
I
big guns.
I'm not for sure about the state of Texas, but you do that here in Arizona. It's a permitless carry state. And you know where I live out here, out in the middle of nowhere. Everybody around me has guns. Everybody driving around has guns. Guess what? There's no liver kings out here or anybody else misbehaving. Keeps themselves and
What do you carry,
likewise.
by the way?
Oh, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to start sound like that. Sound like that ding dong, Sean Strickland running around with his guns and shooting on us. How irresponsible and just nine ballish is that? Are you scaring somebody? Pulling a trigger?
But like, and we don't have to answer this, but I know like you can conceal a weapon in Arizona too. Like you could
Yeah.
have one in your fanny pack
You know
when you're
what? It's
out at
funny.
Walmart.
I was in the grocery store and some big black guy was checking out at the self checkout, and I was looking at his back was to me. And what the hell is on his shoulder? He turned around. He had a shoulder holster and he had a big old gun sitting there. And I go, yeah, so you don't mess around in Arizona.
Yeah.
He walked off with his groceries.
It's funny here in Wichita. I went to a physiotherapy place, and this just doesn't happen in Canada. There's a big sign on the front door. Please don't bring any weapons inside. And it's like just in Canada at a physiotherapy place, no one would ever even imagine bringing a weapon.
Oh, absolutely. It's like that in Arizona. California wasn't like that, and I thought about walking around the neighborhood here. I have like a mile track down some dirt roads and the whole 9 yards because there's mountain lions and all sorts of wild animals out here. I'm not really into shooting animals whatsoever. Actually, after I got sick and everything, I've become very empathetic about shooting animals or even having anything to do with hurting animals. And actually, I think it's kind of foolish. These dumbass roid heads running around going, "Oh, I shot a beast, a big grizzly bear." You know what? Like you're doing something that's hard to do. Like why don't you fight at bare hands or something? Like the Brazilians used to do that. Used to go fight with the what were those pigs or whatever? They go out in wild boars, and it was some famous story about some Brazilian guy that did that. But at least he's out there not shooting them. They're minding their own business. I don't want to get into that and the hunting and all that stuff. It's just like, really? You're a little roid head with a pot belly and a sagittal crest and a bald head thinking you're a tough guy shooting an animal, minding its own business, trying to eat some food.
Yeah,
Not
I
into it.
understand why you do it, but I don't understand the people that are like so excited about it. Like I get it if you want to kill, but like I think too about but I am a meat eater, so I guess I'm contradicting myself, but like I could kill an animal, but I'm not gonna be like, yes, yes, this is
Yeah.
awesome. Let me take a picture with this.
Well, yeah, exactly. Let's go do a hunting trip and go kill a grizzly bear, a beautiful animal like that. And oh yeah, and then they mentally or morally justify. Oh yeah, but it'd kill you if it had the chance. Well, what the hell are you doing walking around in its backyard for with a gun so you can go shoot it and act like you're macho? But that all came after my illness and recovery. I became very empathetic, especially against animals and stuff like that. But if you need to get your ass kicked, then more power to it.
You wouldn't have done well in the old days of wrestling, and I know John has heard these stories with people like Harley Race and Terry Funk. They would have games in the old days where they would just have these guys were crazy. They would have their guns in their cars and they would just shoot like rabbits for the fun of it. Whatever animal is on the side of the road, it's like I'm gonna shoot these things just for the hell of it to pass the time while we're driving.
Yeah,
They would shoot people's mailboxes too. It was just a
oh,
wild time.
I totally understand it, and it used to not really bother me that much, but after you go through some of the things I've been through, life changing events, your way of thinking changes.
Yes, for sure.
But I got no problem going out and shooting somebody that needs to be shot.
And I don't know if John knows this, but I'll just announce to the fans right now that Tank is going to be part of my Blood Hunter YouTube movie that we're recording in August, and it's going to be released this fall. So I'm really looking forward for him to be that. We won't reveal much about his role other than
I
it's not.
play a I play a hunter.
Oh yeah, you play a hunter. Yeah, that was our lead in. But
I'm a grizzly bear hunter. I'm going out shooting grizzly bears because they're beasts, and I'm a badass. I'm gonna go shoot one.
I might be crazy, but I really wish I could have wrestled the bear. Just for the hell of it, just for the
It's
experience.
crossed my mind. I'm sure it'd throw you around like a rag doll.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, I'm sure it would too, but just like I'd like to feel it. And like if you wrestle a bear,
Oh yeah,
then how are you going to be scared of a fight ever? Not that you ever were, but it's like, man, I survived a bear wrestling match.
that'd be true.
John, it's going to be for YouTube, so it's going to be released everywhere. And my YouTube acting clips on here lately have been getting millions of hits, so I figure why not do a movie custom for that? So I'm happy to have Tank on board. He's going to be playing a character very similar to himself in the movie, and he might see some action. So that's something to look forward to. But Johnny, we'll let you take over for a while here with the WCW stuff.
Tank, I'm just curious. Hey, how's everything going? Late '99. You know what I mean? You show up to WCW. How did you get there? Who approached you? Who signed you? Like, how does that all come out with WCW?
Well, UFC was coming to an end, and I think it was McCain and all them, and everybody was saying, "Hey, no mas, you can't do this. This is crazy." And it turns out there's all the behind the scenes stuff that UFC and McCain had interest in Budweiser and the advertising and all that. So there was a push to get rid of it. And I saw the writing on the wall, and I was like, what am I going to do? So I just followed the road. Everybody was, you could go to wrestling, but ironically, I don't know, so ironically, because I believe everything's written nowadays. If you look back on things, you go, wow, that doesn't just happen. But how I got into the UFC with some twists and turns. You'd have to buy my book, which is 900 pages long, to figure it out. But afterwards, directly after the UFC, that was on a Friday. That Sunday, there was a pay-per-view on the beach in Huntington Beach. And I lived there since 74. So they never, ever, ever had a professional wrestling match on the sand down there. And in fact, wrestling was kind of like, yeah, hands offish kind of thing. Like everybody knew what it was, but it wasn't like a big deal. Kind of some here's and there's, you know how the ebbs and flows of wrestling is. And lo and behold, the guy that got me into the UFC through twists and turns, which is a whole nother set of circumstances, it was totally crazy. But he was friends with some wrestling agents. And he had these wrestling agents get me into the UFC, which I had already been kicked out of. So he got me back in. And while we were talking and he got me in over the phone, I was at a bar drinking beers with him. First meeting with the guy. He's an older gentleman. And he was like, comes back and goes, okay, I got you into the UFC. Because he goes, I want to get you into wrestling. And I'm like, yeah. Who cares about wrestling? And he goes, I go, what I really want to do is I want to be in the UFC. And, I looked a lot like what I look like now. And, except a younger version. And I go, well, I really want to be in the UFC. And he goes, well, I can get you into that. No problem. I go, oh, yeah. A young kid, at least in my head. Um, and he goes, yeah, I can get you in. And it was back in the days when there was no cell phones. And so this would have been 96, somewhere around there, 95, 96. And he pulls out this big brick out of a S560 SL red Mercedes, and with a little short antenna on the end. And I'm like a young kid. I was young. I was 29ish, and but I should have been 19. And I was like, holy shit, this guy is a real big wheel, man. He just pulled out a cell phone the size of a brick. It's one of those phones that you don't need a phone line. I'm like, God, this is crazy. And he went out and he sat on the hood and comes back in and goes, okay, kid, you're in. And I'm going, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't want to owe you anything. What do you mean I'm in? He goes, I got you in. I thought he was full of shit. And he goes, all I want from you is a wrestling contract. He goes, we'll do a wrestling contract after you go fight in the UFC and get your ass kicked by these black belts. These guys are real martial art experts. And you're a loudmouth punk kid, you don't know what you're doing, that kind of thing. So, okay. Well, so that goes on. I go fight in the UFC, which was a Friday. Guess what's on Sunday? Back at home. It's a WCW Bash on the Beach in Huntington Beach, which has never, ever, ever, ever even been the closest. I think would have been Anaheim. Yeah, Arrowhead Arena down there, those kind of arenas by
Where you
Disneyland.
once interfered at a WWE show back in your young days.
Yes. And so I go, okay. And so I had two black eyes. I was the toast of the town for the first time in the world ever. They got to see real fighting, not martial arts bullshit and all this Karate Kid crap that everybody wants to sell so they can make money and pretend they're tough. And they saw me kick everybody's ass. And I was, as soon as I left, what was it? Wherever it was at, what the fuck? Where was that at? And the first show was UFC 6 that I was in, and Wyoming, Casper, Wyoming. That's what it was. As soon as I left that little nook of a town, everywhere I went, I was mobbed like Michael Jackson. The airports, the ride to the airport, the gas station at home. So I meet the guy that got me in it, who was going to get me into professional wrestling, at a shop my friend owned. It was a little mom and pop shop, an embroidery shop. And I met him there, and he goes, okay, let's go. We're going to the Bash on the Beach, which could have been anything. I knew it was a wrestling show. Get there, and I was like, oh my God, that's Hulk Hogan right there. I was like in awe. And what was his name? Brian Knobs comes up and got me in a headlock and gives me a big, wet, sloppy kiss on my face. I love you, brother, man. I'm like going, what the hell's going on? It was like a trip. At any rate, so I was, they would go down and watch a show, and they're going, okay, they're going to announce you, and I'm like looking at the guy going, they're going to announce me for? No one knows who the hell I am, you know. They're going, oh no, 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 you just wave to the crowd. So I was standing there. They go, oh, I'm from local Huntington Beach bad boy. That's when I was the Huntington Beach bad boy. And they go, hey, take Abbott. And the whole place goes crazy. It was out on the sand. I was like, surreal moment. We walked back to the hotel. I think it was at Hilton. And there was a table cordoned off. And the show comes to an end. And I was at the bar drinking with my friends and just saying hi to people. And Eric Bischoff comes in with Hogan and all these people. And then the guy that got me into the show was there with these two agents that were wrestling agents. They were there and go up to the table and they go, sit down, please sit down, sit down. And I'm like going, okay. So I grab a seat at the table. They're like, oh, no, 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 no. And I'm like, oh, am I sitting in Hulk Hogan's chair or something? And they're like, this is your chair. You're sitting here. You're the head of the table. And I'm like, going, what? Me? What the fuck? What, me going to be the head of the table? They're going, no, you're the man. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I used to drink Stoli, pretty much straight Stoli with it, just like a soda straw. I'd stick it into a tall bucket, and then I'd drop it in there to change colors to pink. And I was well on my way to having a good time. And so everybody, Bischoff, everybody's at the table, and they're all like talking, like, wow, wow, this is the best thing since sliced bread. This guy's for reals too. And so we all sit around, and I kept on pinching myself, like, can you believe you're sitting at a table with a Hulk Hogan and all these guys in suits, and they're all like, wow, you know. And that one of the agents says, come on, Eric, have you seen it yet? He goes, no, I haven't seen it. He goes, you have to see it. You can't just not see it. He goes, well, I'll check it out when I get around to VCR. And he goes, we happen to have one. And they pulled one out. He goes, we got the tape right here. Let's go back to your room. So we all walked back to Eric's room and they put it on. And I think it was me and fighting the Samoan dude. And then they fast forwarded to the guy that said I wanted to tickle his brain and that kind of stuff. And so everything goes down and they're all watching the thing and everybody's like, oh my God, this is like real professional wrestling going on right now. And I'm sitting there kind of buzzed laughing at the whole surreal moment. And he goes, okay. He goes, hey, he goes, okay, let's go back to the table. And then we're walking out of the room and Eric walks up to me and goes, hey, kid. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, ask you a question. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, you're not really trying to hurt these guys, are you? And I go, no, you know, I had a slight buzz going on. I go, I'm trying to fucking kill him. And he goes, oh my God. And he goes, that's it, that's it, that's it. And he puts his hands out and kind of waves it off like, nope, this is not what we're looking for. And the two agent guys are like, no, 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 Eric, that's just part of it, man. He's just playing. It's not really what he wants. And so we're walking down the hallway back to the table, and the kids, or the agents, say, hey, kid, man, you really fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, what did I really fuck up? He goes, you were going to make a lot of money, man. You just fucked it up with the main dude. I go, I don't give a fuck. I go, no, that's not what I'm here for, man. I'm here to fucking fight. I go, I don't want to really wrestle. And he's all, and then they have a little powwow. And they go, "We can patch it up. We can patch it up. Just don't say anything more. Just And I was footloose and fancy free, man. I was a maniac, and I went back and partied the rest of the afternoon away, and went on to fight. And then it all fell apart. And I think at that time it was WWF,
Yep.
and they were at Anaheim, at the Honda Center or something like that, by Disneyland over there. And I met JR. I had a conversation with him. I don't really remember over the phone, and they invited me to the show, or at least the hotel lobby bar area. And I was talking to JR in the bar area, and all the boys, if you will, at the time I was ignorant on how things went around down at those times. They were all walking by with rubbernecks and big eyes, like they're talking to that guy, they're talking to that guy. And they called me a couple of weeks later and invited me to come out to Connecticut. And so I went out to Connecticut, and I had some ideas now that I've been fighting for a couple of years about money and how it worked a little bit. We're far from the truth, but at least I had an idea. And so I was sitting there, but before I went, I was at home. It's back before cell phones. Phone rang, and it was Eric Bischoff. And I'm like, hello? Hey, Dave, this is Eric Bischoff. And I'm like, what? Like, who's calling me?
Right.
And it's like, this is Eric Bischoff. And I'm like, wow. Well, I didn't obviously say that, but I was feeling it. And he's, I heard you're going up north. To me, north was, in my backyard. And so, like, I go, okay, yeah, I guess. I'm going to go talk to him. And he goes, all right, listen to me. I don't know what. And he goes, well, whatever you do. He goes, I want you to not sign anything. And he goes, go there if you're in the big buildings and all that kind of stuff and fancy everything. That's your place. And I go, oh, well, okay. Let's take it in. Just don't sign anything. Because I got to go somewhere. I'll be back and I'll fly you out Monday of this coming week. And the next day was Tuesday, obviously. And he goes, and we'll talk. So yeah, he goes, I can count on you not signing anything. I go, you got my word on it, man. I'm a straight up kind of guy, man. I'm into principles and values, and that's my thing. I don't backstab and do those kind of things. And he's like, okay, I'll see you on Tuesday or whatever. And so now I know WCW wants to talk to me, but uh, I'm going there first. So I went and talked to JR, who was Pritchard, was there. What's his name?
Bruce.
Bruce Pritchard, yeah. Started talking to Bruce first, and then JR came in, and knowing that I had WCW coming up, I didn't. I sat back and was listening to their thing, and it kind of lowballed me. For come to find out, it wasn't such a lowball, but in my head, I thought it was. So, you're going to sign a contract, you're going to get rock money right off the bat.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. And was interesting negotiating with those guys and talking to them. And they say, okay, so we got a deal. And I go, well, I'm not signing anything right now. And I go, I got to think about this, and we'll go from that here to the next step. And then I went home, got on a plane, and flew down to see Eric. And there's a little difference. I went up north on, they flew me coach, which is no big deal, but just in comparison. And they picked me up in a town car and drove me up from JFK up to Connecticut, which was a schlep. But so WCW picks me up in a limo, puts me up in a nice place. Um, um, Eric
Did they
sat
pay
there.
your bar tab that night?
I didn't drink then. I was drinking, but I didn't drink that night. Believe it or not, I'm very disciplined and know when to drink and when not to. And so even back WCW or WWF days, there was a whole bunch of people trying out. I met Kurt Angle when I was trying out with him, WWF. He was coming in at the same time. And they all went out and partied that night after I was out there. They want to make sure you can wrestle, take bumps, and do all that kind of stuff. I told them I wrestled my whole life. I'm not. They go, yeah, but it's different. You just got to translate, which I understand now.
Yep.
But they, so they all went out and partied. I stayed in my hotel room. I didn't want to go out and make a scene. So Eric comes, I get in there, and he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I was like, okay, now we're talking. This is what I was expecting. And then he goes, well, he goes, oh yeah, there's one other thing. He goes, you want to do a deal? I go, yeah, we'll do a deal. I'll sign right now. He goes, okay, well, I got to do my paperwork and take the limo, go get lunch, and then come back. And I said, okay. And then I come back and we're doing the papers, and I'm going, this is too good to be true. And he goes, well, I got one little problem here. And he goes, this is why I haven't got a hold of you sooner. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, I was, I want you more than anything, and I think that we can find a spot for you and get you over, et cetera, et cetera. He goes, but I'm not going to use you for 6 months. And I'm like, oh, I knew this was going to happen. It is too good to be fucking true. And I was like, wah, wah, wah. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, but he goes, you'll be on the payroll tomorrow. In fact, we'll mail you out a check as soon as you leave. And he goes, you'll still be getting a week, paycheck every 2 weeks. He goes, I'm just not going to use you. And he goes, just one thing for you to do, and that's not tell anybody. And I go, considered it done, man. So that's how I got into wrestling. Eric pulled
Crazy
the big,
because
Eric pulled pull the carpet out from under their feet.
yeah, and it's crazy too when you get there, he's gone. He's sent home, and Russo is basically writing the show, and then Russo leaves. So crazy when you get there how much change happens basically within
Well,
weeks.
well, Eric was just basically leaving at that time. And then it it was craziness in the fact that no one knew who was in charge, no one knew what was going on, and I tried my darndest, and I can't tell you, I can, but I don't. Everybody wanted to work with me. Everybody, like any name you could think of, wanted to work with me, and I'm like, I would just look at them and go, "Hey, I'd like to work with you, but I'm not going to say anything to anybody because you don't know who's friends with who, what clique was what clique. Whatever. I basically was by myself the whole time. I traveled alone. I had my own car. I didn't travel with anybody. Only person I remotely hung out with was me and Gene Okerlund, and we would drink in the
Wow,
bar on the weekends, and we had some good times. Gino was a good guy,
that's awesome.
and
Nice.
yeah. So, but as far as everybody else, it was like, yeah, 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 hey, sure, yeah, I'd love to do that, yeah, 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 and they came up with all sorts of crazy. Who was booking? Who wasn't? Before the internet, I was still in the dark until I got the internet became a big thing. I could look back and go, oh, now it comes crystal clear what was going on. I was that much in the dark.
Wow.
I didn't realize all the things like when they were going to have me in a battle royale and I was going to win it and I was going to have the strap.
Yep.
No, no, no one told me about that. Nobody, and they were all like, and in that business, it's like, oh yeah, right, sure. Like, oh, you didn't know that? Uh huh. The wink and a nod. Yeah, all right. You sure you didn't? But I didn't know any of these things. None.
Wow, I was going to ask you that because I've talked to Russo. And we did bunch of interviews about it, but he basically laid the whole thing out. He wanted you and Sid, the last two guys in the battle royal. You would basically knock him out and then throw him out. You'd be the new WCW World Champion, and that was never even relayed to you ever. You never even knew about that.
Nope.
Wow.
And all the boys were walking around all pissed off at me. And you know, everybody in that business is pretty cool people. They check their egos at the door, and no one, thinks they're badass or whatever. And it's not about that. And so they were cool people. And but there's always backstabbing going on. Everybody's working an angle. It's almost narcissistic. And I was just like, just let me live, whatever. And then like 5 minutes before the Sid Vicious match, I was supposed to win that. 5 minutes. And it's not like I told anybody. They 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 were all walking around. Um, oh, you're gonna get the strap. You're gonna get the strap. Did they call you? They call you? I mean, in the locker room going, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? And I didn't even know any idea what that meant by calling me. And I guess, you're going to win the strap. They call you up and let you know. And I was like, I don't know. I just show up, man. In fact, so because of the, I guess rumors, and they weren't coming from me because I didn't talk to anybody, and I didn't say, hey, yeah, this is what's going to happen, anything like that. Um, all the way up, literally 5 minutes. I think the show might have even been going on. It was no, maybe a half hour before the show was going on. Jimmy Hart comes by and hands me a new travel itinerary, and I'm like, I already got mine. They FedEx you your things. And he's like, oh no, I think you might. And he didn't want to say, hey, well, they made a new one, and you're not going on after the show. And
Mhm.
so I was like, I already got one. I didn't put two and two together. Just folded it up, put it in my bag. And the next day, I go walk into the thing. The they, affectionately called it the war room. And what was his name? Buddy Sullivan.
Yeah.
Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah, Sullivan was in there. And I walk in, and I thought they were going to go, okay. We already walked out. And mind you, green as green gets. It wasn't like I'm some professional uh, wrestler that's been on the road 2 or 3 years and know how to put a match together and call high points and all that kind of stuff. I had not a fucking clue. So like, you're gonna do a wrestling match with me. I had all day to figure it out what was gonna go on, and I would go, hey, we got to get in the ring and walk through the match, because I did some house shows. One time I knocked myself out, and thank God that we had done the show, the match, 4 or 5 shows in a row. So I was just on autopilot. I finished it off, but I would walk through everything because I didn't want any screw ups, because I'm getting paid not to screw up, and so Sullivan's like all the way up to that. We walked through the match a whole bunch of times with Sid, and on and on and on. And then I'm like, I guess I guess they're gonna give it to me this time. I mean, it's gotten this far, not just talk and people going, "Oh, you're getting the strap." I actually think they called me, and I'm like, okay, I guess this is the time. It was the time when Benoit was kind of like a screw over on Benoit
Yep.
with the foot out of the thing.
Yep. With Sid. Yep.
I totally did not even know that was going on. Not a clue. Didn't even know who they were wrestling.
Oh,
Benoit.
was that supposed to be you winning? Was that the night that
That
was?
match, well, no, that was that Sid won the match, and then they were gonna have me come in and wrestle Sid, and I was
Yeah.
supposed to win. It was a roundabout fu all
But
the
then
way
they gave
around.
it to Benoit instead in the
The,
dumbest move ever.
well, the crippler thing or whatever.
Yeah.
The,
And
the
then he
crippler.
left to WWE like the next day.
Yeah. He gave the
Yeah,
title back. Yeah.
all of them did because that's what the main thing was, because the battle royale, 3 of them all quit and went to the WWE because they were so pissed because I wasn't a pedigree B-level wrestler guy, and they were going to give me the strap, and they deserved it. They thought they deserved it, and how dare they get some guy from another sport that doesn't even
You
know
were
he's
more
been.
famous than all of them at the time. You were even more
Exactly.
famous than Sid, and Sid is a legend, but at that time, for mainstream
Yes,
fame, you were more famous.
exactly. And so I walked in there, and then Sullivan's like, "Yeah, you're not going to win." And I'm like, "I don't care. Is my check coming next week?" In my head. And I'm like, "At least I don't have to carry the belt around." I make all the, all the excuses I keep putting. I, to me, it meant something to those guys. To me, it meant absolutely nothing. It was not like I was a professional wrestler and wanted to be ever since I was knee high to a grasshopper. I was just, you know, if I was from that background, it would have meant something to me. I got to the top of the mountain. To me, it was like, yeah, who cares? Whatever. So I went in there, and Sid's all, okay, we'll just do the whole match that we've gone through like 3 times. He goes, we'll just do that all the way to the end, and then I'll be up against the ropes, and my ribs will be taped up, and you act like, yeah, I just got it, and I'll come off the ropes and choke you from behind. And I'm like, whatever, I don't care. And so that happened, and this will tell you how much I know. I just went, oh, well, professional wrestling 101. This is what happens. Um, I got up the next day and drove to Fargo, thinking I was on the loop. There was a. That's why Jimmy was giving me a new itinerary. I was supposed to fly home the next day, so they were like double covering themselves. And so I drove to Fargo and went there. I think I was in a little small airport. I just walked in and said, "Hey, they screwed my flight up," and flew from Fargo back to Minneapolis and then home. But that's what that's what went down.
So for anyone that says that would have been a dumb idea, I mean, first of all, I agree it would have been a good idea because of your fame. It would have brought prestige to the title because you were really hot at that time from UFC. But they ended up putting it on a guy that left the company and never even lost the title. So how in the world would anyone think that was a better idea? Like that makes no sense. But I just got to throw one question in here before I forget. Violent J, who I know you love, the Insane Clown Posse. He told a story that Goldberg once roughed up Evan Courageous to John. Evan Courageous was from Three Count.
Yes.
Can you confirm that that story happened at all by any chance?
To John, meaning
Like John, Violent J said he witnessed. I guess Evan,
right.
as a joke, rubbed his hand on his crotch and then went to shake Goldberg's hand. And he said Goldberg grabbed him by the neck and threw him down. And he said, no one, Violent J said he's surprised no one ever talked about it but him because it was quite a scene. And since you were
Yeah.
friends with them, I was just wondering.
Well, Bill, it's a great guy. I got nothing. I got bad to say about the guy. He just kind of I was just believe his gimmick a little bit. Is that what they call it?
Yep.
Yeah, being uh, uh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, he just believed his gimmick a little too much, and maybe he felt disrespected. I don't know. With all that kind of stuff going on with those guys, who knows? But Bill was into believing his gimmick, and rightfully so, I guess.
Whatever happened to your feud with Goldberg? Like, wasn't that kind of the reason they brought you in? Wasn't it supposed to be this big feud? I know he got injured at one point, but wasn't that supposed to be a big feud, you and him?
Yeah, that's a good question. And and politics, politics. Not that I cared. I was just there for the ride, but in hindsight, I've always been like, I should have, could have, would have, and all that kind of stuff. But it's all written. It happened the way it happened. But maybe I could have stood up for myself a little bit more here and there. But, and, but it wasn't for me to do at the time. I was easygoing. Yes, man. Whatever you want. Okay, I can do that. Um, I could have got myself over a little bit more. They, you know, and and I truly believe that Eric, whom I have utmost respect for to this day, um, not for just business reasons, but just the way he conducts himself. Um, he he had his plans and he had his ideas of what he wanted to do, and he was no longer around, and so it's kind of like the bastard child, and what do we do with him now, kind of thing, and so that was kind of in the way, but the more I'm in the way, I kind of like the UFC, just my life in general is like, well, he isn't uh, the way he's supposed to be, but somehow he always bubbles up to the top, and it's good not to play with him. Then that way he doesn't have anywhere to bubble around. And so it was kind of like, oh wow, what are we gonna do with him now? And it's kind of like the 3 count thing. I was just like trying to find something for me to do where I could have gone off. I should, could have, would have. I could have. I could have been used a lot differently. Who's to say better or worse? And then, but it is what it is. And I just it is what it is. I guess I could say, oh, well, they should have done this, they should have done that. I could have, but I wasn't my place.
Did you like the 3 count thing though? Like as far as like the dancing and singing, because you kind of got into it. Actually,
Uh,
it really wasn't that
well,
bad. It was very sports entertainment esque, but it was good.
yeah, it was fun. But see, I like that. Everybody knows I don't get a liver transplant because you're a teetotaler. I like that fun. I'm not like you were saying. Mark Coleman calls himself an alcoholic and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a slave to alcohol by any means, none whatsoever. I like to raise hell and have a good time and whatever. I have a ton of laughs and everybody wanted to hang out with me when I was at the bar and having a good time. And
Could we
they,
find you on the dance floor when
yeah,
you would go to the
just,
bar dancing like
just,
that?
yeah, that's where it came from. All the writers were like, "Oh my god, Tank fucking is the man of the bar." Everybody wanted to go back and hang out with me at the bar at the hotel because man, I would have fun. Make fun of people or do whatever. Just everybody was laughing and having a good time, and that's all I was always been around about. I mean, obviously my physical body couldn't keep up with what I like to do. There's nothing more. I mean, there's nothing more fun than going out and getting drunk and acting the fool. And I was an expert at it. Um, but the writers and all that, if we could just put this on TV, oh my God, it would be through the roof. And so they were banging their heads around trying to get it over. And that's what they came up with, the 3 count.
So just for anyone that hasn't seen that Mark Coleman interview, which people could look up on this, it was a couple of weeks ago. What Tank is saying, that Mark was saying he was an alcoholic, where he basically didn't leave a cheap hotel room for a year, and it got to the point where the maids stopped even coming in. And I think Wes Sims or someone like that eventually came in, cleaned the whole room up, and drove him to rehab. And Tank is saying he wasn't the type of drunk that just lies in bed drinking all day depressively. He goes out, parties, has fun, doesn't regret it the next day, and you were still productive. You were still able to like function in everyday life.
Absolutely. Um, absolutely. And if I was fighting, I'd take care of my training. I'd do everything. I didn't from Monday to Friday night if I had a fight coming up every 3 months. I would not party. I would do my work and training. Um, all these other people, there's negative people. They want to paint. Oh, they want to paint me like I hang out in a pay to stay hotel or whatever they call those things, in a shithole basically, and live a fucking scummy
Extended
life.
stay
Yeah,
motels.
Yeah.
extended stay hotel. I had more fun in a night than people do in a month, and I used to do it every night. Right, nothing to do and a whole lot of money to spend, and it cost me my liver and my kidney, but Man, it was a good time. Alcohol never. I could even back in those days. I could I could say I'm not going out drinking tonight. This is I don't feel good, or I'd say I don't know. I don't know if I want to go out tonight, or I say I wanted to go out. Why not? Why the hell not? Why not go out and get drunk and God knows where the where it takes you, man. I used to meet the craziest people and end up in the craziest places you could even dream about thinking about.
Yeah. I've been there too, but my problem is I would black out sometimes and not know what the hell I'm doing. Would you black out, or were you pretty
No, no, I knew.
remembering?
I pretty much knew everything I was doing, and then but my physical body at the end, your liver shuts down, and you're pumping poison through your brain. And it's called ammonia and all that kind of stuff. Cirrhosis happens, and literally, I drank myself insane. I was crazy at the end of my life before I died. But I was definitely crazy. But as far as going out and having nonstop laughter, doing nonstop stupid things, I did it all day. All day long. I met the. No, I never met anybody crazier than me. Like all these all celebrities that think they go out and party. I don't see any of them in a liver transplant section of very few, anyways.
Right.
I'd get out and get down. I was laughing the whole time.
Just a couple things before John takes back over. When I was looking for your 3 count pictures, I just have a few questions about 2 pictures. One, it looks like you're trying to throw this guy out of the cage.
Yes.
And two, what's your buddy telling you here? You look like you're about to cry or just punch him, and
You
he's
know what?
holding
I
you.
never even I didn't even notice myself in that one. I'm probably asking him, "What the fuck are you doing?" John, crook, corrupt guy he is. He's he's a he's a Yahoo.
That's one thing you, Pat, and Mark can all agree on. Although Pat didn't tell me on the record, but I know off the record he does not like John either.
Well, another thing I saw on John the other day, it was a John Jones thing. This is all, when you're flipping through, he's running around saying John Jones is gay now. He's a typical MPD narcissist, card carrying narcissist that has to make it all about himself. He's just a referee, and because he's a cop, whatever, and he was a student. A student? I mean, he became a referee because they never had one before, and they had him do it. He's a Yahoo and a half. He should not even be associated. And now he's calling John Jones gay because John, accordingly to this little reel thing that they had, John did some before a fight, like laced his leg up on his training partner and says, "Is this legal?" And he was dry humping him or something. And so John has got to make it. Oh, he's gay. He's got to take over the conversation and chime his 2 cents of dumbness into it.
What do you have to say to Walt here saying Severin fucked you up?
Yeah, well, so did Severin, and we'll just stay with Severin. Severin and Big John. Big John let him slap me on the head like a little bitch for 15 minutes. And if you're gonna say, oh well, that's their job, then why did he do just the fight before that was me and Oleg? Why did he pull me off of Oleg? Where's the consistency there? It's because John and Severin. Let's be truthful here. He's kind of a goofball, Dudley Do Right idiot. I'm gonna slap you around and teach you the good book. And he he sat around. If you watch that fight, I don't care. He won, whatever. He doesn't take steroids. I don't think. If he did, he should take better ones. Um, but he just goes out there and takes me down and slaps me for 15 minutes. To me, that's not like
There
fighting.
he is with your book in your backyard, by the way.
You know what's the irony behind that? He doesn't know how to read.
And by the way, the fans never saw this. Tank actually pushed Dan in the pool. I was there for that. Before Dan left, Tank shoved him
Oh,
in the pool.
that he was going to teach the bad bully that he's not so arrogant. He's going to push me in the pool. What kind of? Come on, like that. Fighting's about being hard and being a tough guy, not about being like, oh, I'm going to teach you how to behave. Like, what are you in grade school? You like Dudley Do Right?
Yeah, well, I think
Like
you
I
made
like
more
I
money
like
in
I
the
say,
UFC than him overall,
and
just
dye
because you were a character.
and
But he was good.
dye that guy's hair white like Flair, and let him just talk. Have you listen to him talk when he does his little reels? Oh my God, I'm telling you, he'd be as big as a rock
I'm gonna
with
have to look
with a
that up.
with a big coat like Flair would wear, and he could go out there and be like Gorgeous George.
Yeah, for sure. And what about this thing where it looks like you're trying to throw the guy out of the cage? Was that just
I'm
random or were
not.
you?
I'm not trying. And these pathetic negative people that kind of get on the comments and stuff. You think I sit around and make up bullshit to get myself over? Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make up a story. I'm not making no story up. I picked them up like a feather, and I thought about it. I pushed him up against the fence, and I go, if I throw this guy out over the fence while I'm standing there, I go, they're gonna go, what the F happened here? And they're gonna have to let him back in, and then I'm gonna have to start all over again. I go, I'll just chain pull him, pull him to his back, and start punching his face in. And that's what I opted to do, which was more of a economically smart maneuver to do. And that everybody's like, "Oh, you almost threw him over." I wasn't trying to throw him over. If I did, he would have been launched. I was I was benching well over 600 pounds at that time, and that is nothing. And no, I've never taken steroids. I'll take fucking polygraph test by a person that does polygraphs, a certified polygraph person. Never taken steroids, and everyone that takes steroids, if you're taking them to be tough and be a fighter, you're a fucking pussy. Period.
Someone that was more recent in UFC, maybe 10-ish, 15-ish years ago, recently told me he was on steroids for all of his UFC fights and that there's certain ways, certain exceptions they'll make.
No, no one,
Uh,
no one tested you then. That's why
yeah.
that's why they say it. Like Shamrock says, "Oh, everybody was taking steroids." No, kid, you were taking steroids. I wasn't, and I can say that because he tested positive at a different show for
I
taking
believe
steroids.
you didn't, and I believe Dan didn't for your era. There's two
That's
guys I can 100% believe didn't take
another
it.
guy that truly beat me was Pedro Hizo, and I don't think he was on steroids either.
Someone just asked you about that randomly. Who was the best striker you ever faced? Was it Pedro
Uh,
Rizzo?
yeah, he kicked the shit out of me. I think he probably broke my leg. I don't know if he did or not, but I thought I could out. I thought I was an ignorant person. I found
You
out
gave a good promo after that, by the way, for anyone that hasn't seen it.
I don't remember it, but that was one of the coolest places I ever been in a fight. It was like movie time stuff. It was like yeah, it was like almost like seedy, and it was was like, I walked in there and I went, yeah, this is gonna be fun. Fucking, everybody was like drunk and screaming, and obviously from a different uh, country. It was it was awesome to my adrenaline wore off, and I was in the back and went, holy fuck, who broke my leg? Yeah, no, those kicks were something else.
Who's the hardest striker? I know obviously he's the hardest kicker, he's out, but who's the hardest striker you ever faced?
You know what? I don't know, and the only thing that I could think of is that who's the other little roid head guy? That guy should not have any wins whatsoever. He should be removed from the records, and that's I forget his name.
Vitor?
Yeah,
Vitor
Victor
Belfort?
Belfort. That guy's just a little roid head dude, and whatever. I back in those days, I always knew those guys were all taking steroids, and I didn't care. I still don't. But the point is, what would Vitor Belfort be if he didn't take steroids? He'd be a little pussy. I've seen him. I think it was in. I think it might have been in London. He was there, or actually, it might have been in L.A. But he was obviously not on his steroid use, and he looked like a average looking Yahoo. But he hit me with a good short uppercut, and I didn't feel it. I didn't even know it went down. And then Kimbo, another guy that was pretty much every guy I've ever fought, I've been stronger than and never really noticed their strength. And I'm not saying that Kimbo was stronger than me, but I noticed his strength. He was like a telephone pole, and he hit me because I didn't even know what happened, and he hit me, and he hit me. So I have to say those two guys, and both of them were heavily on the
Yeah.
sauce.
Write it up.
By the way, it was Maurice Smith, the promo that I was thinking. I got it confused with Pedro. For anyone that wants to look up one of his funnier UFC promos, you did a good one after your Maurice Smith match.
Yeah, Maurice Smith. That was the one that I wasn't even I wasn't even supposed to fight. It was like 2 days before they called me, and that's when all the treacherous, all these guys that fight, well, they call themselves fighters, and I guess they get in there and fight, but they're not really warriors. They're treacherous um, retrobates that get in there and pretend like they're narcissistic, to pretend like they're fighters, and they live by some they don't live by some oath or um, being anyways, but they're when they're not on steroids, they have to be on steroids, but I'd squash them like a grape. And so what does that mean? You know, I'm tough when I'm on steroids, so I'm tough when I carry my gun around and keep it in my front pocket. You know, what's the difference? Because you're not really you. Peter Belfort's not really you. He's not tough if he's not on steroids. But imagine anybody could be tougher than what they are when they're on
What
steroids.
did you deadlift, by the way? Some people are asking. Regular
No,
and stiff leg, or did you even do stiff leg?
no, never did either one. I was I wasn't into loading the bar on the ground. This is a pain in the ass, and I never really got into it. I did squats, but that was easy to change, you know. Never did deadlifts.
When you were in WCW, I don't know if you'll remember this or not. Just this is so random, but you fought a guy, Big Al, in a leather jacket on a pole match. Do you remember this at all? And at the end, you had a knife, and they pretended like, oh, he's got a pair of scissors. He's going to cut his beard, but obviously, the guy
No,
didn't have a beard.
no, it was John Shavani. I
Yep.
think he said that.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that was talk about they didn't know what to do with me. They're like, hey, we don't know what to do with you. I forget who it was. And I'm like, yeah. They go, well, you got to be on this pay per view. You got any ideas? And I'm like, I don't, you're asking me, like what to do. And I'm like, mind you, this is before Instagram and all that kind of stuff, and before the internet. So I don't have a clue. Like, and I wasn't like a big fan and knew who obviously knew who Hulk Hogan was and those kind of things. But as far as knowing anything to do, and I go, well, I got have fun. I can get my friend to go with me. His name is Big Al, and he used to go out with me at the UFC fights. And so I go, how about, because I had a jacket with a big UFC logo on the back, and it was kind of fu to all the martial art guys that these are dilettantes, these guys that think they're experts in fighting because they watched a couple of UFC shows and know how to fight now, and so they're dilettantes, they're experts of nothing, but they can watch a couple shows and know how to fight. Um, they they would watch, but I had a biker jacket, and on the back of it had a embroidery from the embroidery shop that guy worked at or owned, and I put a big UFC jacket back on the back of it, and it was kind of in the time. It was a pretty famous jacket. I got offered a lot of money for it. I still have it. It's in my back pocket, in my back jacket closet. But
Very loud jacket. Everyone comments because I think you wear it in our first interview. They're like, we hear the jacket very well in this.
it's real thick leather, and so it was kind of instead of these martial arts jujitsu guys and the karate guys, all these guys that I don't have a clue about fighting and sport fighting or they're athletes. It's almost like wrestling, but it was kind of like in your face, kind of like the big 400-pound Samoan that knew the martial art. The martial arts show. That's why they kicked me out of their whole show to begin with, before I even got in. And so I made this biker jacket, which is the antithesis of martial arts and athleticism. And so I said, Al came to wrestling and said, at a show, he goes, oh, I came here to watch my buddy wrestle. And he goes, what a joke. I think my buddy's a sellout. And he sold out for coming here and being a wrestler. And so they came up with that we were gonna fight for this jacket there. It's adorned with Vietnam veteran patches. And so Al was going to fight me. They're going to put this pole on our jacket on top of this pole, and we're going to climb up it and take it off. And whoever did that, obviously, that was the prize.
Yep.
And so I used to have a knife that I would keep in the inside of my breast pocket there because God knows whenever I needed to open a beer bottle or something like that. And didn't ever think about it. I knew it was part of it. But we went through the whole match. We walked through it all. And I was going to carry him all the way up to the top rope. And he agreed to take a back bump from me throwing him off of my back.
Yep.
over my shoulder into the ring, and he was going to take a back bump, and that was going to be the end of it. Well, he he fell off of my shoulder and fell down on the side of the ring, down on the outside
Yep.
of it where the steps
I remember.
were.
Yep.
And I was standing on the rope, and I'm like going, "Oh fuck, what now?"
Hmm.
It's ad lib time. And so I grabbed my jacket, and it was kind of anticlimactic. The crowd's just like, "Oh wow, you got the jacket." So I said, "Why? Wait a minute, I got a knife in there." I go, "I'm gonna jump down and scare them, people," and that's what I ended up doing. Wasn't part of the script. Wasn't talked about. It was total ad lib, and jumped off and put it to his neck and said I could kill him. Just,
Yeah.
just, just a ha ha thing, and that kind of shocked all the people. And thank God it was on pay per view. I guess they said as I walked in the back and all the agent type guys there I am, all were like, "What the hell did you just do?" And I'm like, going, "Well, um, what do you mean? What I just do?" And I go, I just held it to his neck and said I'd kill him. That was it. And then next thing you know, there was a scene, and some of the guys that were running the office and everything else come up to me into the bar. "Hey, come here. We got to talk to you." And I'm like, "Yeah, what's the deal?" He goes, "Thank God it was only on pay per view." He goes, "Secondly, you can't pull a weapon out like that and do that." And I go, "Well, I can understand that in hindsight." I go, "But let me explain something to you. You guys did not tell me what to do. You didn't tell me anything. And every time I came up to you, like, hey, I need some help here. I don't know how to put a match together. I don't know how to do high point. I don't know anything whatsoever. Nothing." And you guys said, "We don't care what you do, go do it." And I go, "What I do? What?" I go, I took that as free reign. I guess we could have started punching each other. I guess we did in that thing.
Yep.
We ended up tying our hands together with the belt. And I go, "You didn't say, oh, you can't do that, you can't do this." I go, "You said, we don't care what you do, go do it. I can't help you. I wish you could." Arn Anderson said, "I wish I could help you." He goes, "My hands are tied. I have to stay out of this." I said, "Okay, this is when it was all falling apart." And so like they're sitting there saying, "Oh, let's say example, Coleman's calling me a flop." Well, how about I take Mark Coleman and drop him right in the middle of the show and say, "Put a show together, or go put a match together, and you're going to get over. And at this time, you're going to have a couple high spots and do this and that. Good luck. See you later. I'll see who you come up with." And and I'm pretty sure not too many people would come up with anything. But the guy that was in the office goes, just looked at me and goes, "I get you. Okay, all right, I understand." And they never brought it up again, except for the match. Then we went back to the bar, and everybody was going, "That was the most craziest match we ever seen. The guy standing on your face." And I'm like, "Yeah, I used to do that all the time when I was drinking. It was one of my drinking games." Um, but they're like, "You guys were punching each other." He goes, "That wasn't a work." And I go, "No, it wasn't." And I go, "Oh," they just walk off shaking their head like that was a nutty match. Still around nowadays, I guess.
Oh yeah. People keep asking your thoughts on Kimbo Slice. By the way, they want to know what you think about Kimbo.
Yeah, Kimbo was whatever. I mean, not really much. He won, and it wasn't really much of a fight. I was in shape. I didn't do the job for him. It was he hit me with a good shot. Not that
I will just throw out very quickly in the dark side of the cage. Anyone that saw the highlights for the Kimbo Slice Dark Side of the Cage, they cut out a lot of what Tank did in that fight. They made it look like Tank basically did a straight job for him. Just for anyone that's just seen the match from that side. I don't know if you've seen that, John, but I was pissed when I saw that.
yeah, whatever. At that time, the fire of fighting, it kind of left me. I've done a lot of soul searching about that. I have I there's a point in life. I don't know so much in life, but you know it the importance of competing, and I said everything I want to say. I did everything I wanted to do, and it was never. You have to remember when I started, you fought 3 times in one night. It was about fighting. There was no singles matches. There was no um, uh, super fights and who was the champion and this bullshit about scales. I might sound like bitter, but I'm not really bitter. I don't care. You guys, it's like midget wrestling to me. These when I started fighting back, I believe that I was close to, if not the last generation that you walked around in society, and if you're a small guy, you better keep your mouth shut, and that's just the way it goes. All these guys that fight nowadays, really, you drive around and you put a scale in your trunk and go, oh, hey, get on the scale if you weigh over 150 or 175 or even 180. I can't fight you. It was more or less keep your mouth shut, you get your ass kicked. And I had an older brother who was 5 years older than me. He was a big All-American football player in the whole 9 yards. And you know what? Until I was sure I could kick his ass, I kept my mouth shut. And when I became a junior in high school, he learned that he wished I kept my mouth shut because I kicked his ass all over the TV. Back in the day, the TV remotes when they had the long cord on them,
Oh
and
yeah.
he used to think he was TV king, and he found out he wasn't anymore the king of the TV. When I He was an All-American college football player, and he got his ass kicked by a junior in high school.
That's
That
funny.
that happened
Did
to your
you have a
brother.
contract for more than one fight with Elite XC, by the way, or was it just a one and done type
Oh
deal?
no, and I digressed on that. I just didn't have any fire. Eh, You know, like eh, like I had something to prove in the UFC, and back in those days when I was UFC 6, I was so glad when I got the 400-pound neck breaker. As I went to their first show, well, the show before mine, and it was all like martial arts, and at that time, I used to drive around in my van. I had a Ford van. I had a Bull. I put it on my Instagram. I found a picture of it. I used to drive around with that with a 12 pack of beer, and I'd go to different dojos around my neighborhood and go in there and ask all the guys if they wanted to fight. None of them took me up on it. But
They need to do a movie about you, and I know there might be one in the works, but a fiction movie about some of these adventures.
oh yeah, well, um, speaking of which, I got my first draft on my screenplay of Walter Fox, who happens to be the hero of this novel that I wrote, and I got the first act done, pretty good, and I don't care if it ever. I do care, but I mean, it's fun to do. It's intellectually stimulating, and yeah, when it gets done, it's going to be awesome. Got the first act done on the second draft, and it's pretty smooth. There's only one Walter Fox in this world. That's the hero. He only lived once, but it's not a whole bunch of hyperbole. A lot of people think it's an autobiography, but if it's an autobiography, trust me, it'd be a lot worse.
Your WCW contract, it was just 1 year. That was it, or what? Like, what
Yeah,
was the time frame on it?
3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when they stop using you, you're still getting paid all the way until the end of WCW in 2001.
Yeah, and they didn't pay me the first, or they paid me the first 6 months for doing nothing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Damn.
I had a hell of a party. Hell
I
of a
love
party.
that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I was on vacation for 6 months. I was working out a lot, but I think I ran a marathon. Actually, I ran a marathon right before I went and saw Eric.
You were in your
Wow.
best shape for WCW, possibly as far as like your physical look, I think.
Yeah, I'm not much of a what is it, bodybuilder looking kind of guy. I uh, I always said I like to look good with 600 pounds in my hands instead of having a cut up stomach and all that kind of stuff. I don't care if I have a little bit of fat on me. I'm not into looking good unless I'm on top
Yeah.
of you in your face. And
You were obviously legit tough, and somebody was just asking, who else did you find like legit tough in WCW? So many guys say the Steiner brothers or Ming, Haku, or Barbarian. Who do you think was legit tough from WCW?
well, they're all you know what all those guys, and they're mythological. A lot of those guys, and more power to all those guys. And um, let them have their miss. They weren't pushing it. They weren't out there saying, "Hey, hey, hey." Not really anybody in that whole business. Everybody was respectful. No one ever was. I always have problems. They disrespect me, and nobody in that wrestling world's gonna disrespect me. Not anybody. And they were all cool. And there's a lot of myths out there about all these guys, and good for them. Let them have those myths. No, none of them
Nobody
were.
tested you. Nobody had to prove they were tough to you. They weren't going to do that.
No, and I think they were smart enough. Wrestlers are pretty smart guys. I'm pretty sure they were smart enough not to go there because I, I, I can stretch my brain, and they are all tough in their own right, but they don't want to see me in the street.
This
Hannibal
is
maybe get knocked out in his movie though by you. I know that.
You're gonna have to wait and see what
I was
happens
gonna
with
say
that.
I'm not at liberty to say anything.
Uh,
Someone says, were you starstruck by any of the boys, or for that matter, any celebrities over the course of your career? I don't know how you could have. I know you had Clint Eastwood at your house at one point. I mean, I would
Whoa.
find it hard not to be marking out but at the same
Yeah.
time, you want to seem cool when you have Clint Eastwood over for a dinner party.
Well, I was at a friend's house, but I also was recovering from my liver transplant surgery, which was riddled with 5 strokes. So I was kind of more or less at the time just there. I was, but as far as I remember seeing Hulk Hogan for the first time, that he was starstruck. I was starstruck by him. Not when I was working with him, but way back when. Back in the time when after wrestling practice, and then we used to before wrestling practice, before we start warming up, um, wrestling WWF was on his upswing, and Hogan was there, and the heavyweight on our team we would do um, ad lib wrestling matches, and he we decided we were drinking tequila, and we were at the Anaheim Convention Center. It's on my Instagram, a picture of it. But I saw him at at the arena there, and I remember going, "Oh my God, that's Hulk Hogan," and he was probably 40 yards away. That would be the only guy that I was really like, "Wow." And then after you get to a certain point, then they're all just people.
When you look back at WCW, all positive though, or any regrets there?
Just my ignorance, all positive. Just my ignorance as far as regret. I wish I would have known what was going on a little bit better, and maybe I could have. And talk about getting thrown into the fire pan. It was like, what? What the heck? What's going on? Yeah, I had no clue. And at the same token, I walked around on eggshells because I didn't want to screw anything up. And so, if I wasn't so ignorant of what and how things worked, um, I would have been, you know, everything was great with WCW. It was, like I said, it was a great time. I mean, how could it not be for anybody? Um, and then, you know, it's just if I had a better understanding of what was going on, I could have capitalized more and probably got over a lot more than even came close to doing. I could have, should have, could have, would have, but I feel that I could have burned the house down. I just wasn't comfortable, and I was always wary of stepping on the wrong toes, screwing something up.
The political
That,
minefield.
that's a true statement. You never know who's who, what's what. Basically, if you didn't have any, you know, I just didn't want to screw anything up, and but if I would have applied myself and not been so much held back, where I think if you go from a different paradigm of these guys that come from that whole scene, they're trying to push their agenda and they're trying to get over and they're trying to make themselves um, more than what they would try more. They would have so much more trying. Where trying, I was always the opposite paradigm of trying not to screw things up. Like I could have, I could have come up with some really great shit, but I was just like, nah, it's not broken. Don't fucking touch it. Don't touch it. Where in hindsight, just, if I just would have got off, like you watch these old time guys, these legends, and these great guys like Macho Man and all those guys, and if you take all the nonsense of people trying to push their own agenda over on top of his or what have you, if I just turned myself loose of what I could really have been, just if I was more myself, you know, I didn't, so it doesn't matter. That's, but I don't have any regrets for anything, but that would be as close as coming to a regret of not turning myself loose. Always concerned about fucking up my paycheck.
Could we just get you to give your thoughts on your UFC debut? It was quite a spectacular debut. We'll just play the finishing seconds there, but what was going into your head getting that opportunity to display your fighting skills for the first time as you make fun of the guy being knocked out in front of such a great crowd and a big
Yeah,
audience?
I used to do that every weekend, and if not a couple times a week. I was always fighting, and these clowns, these idiots, these fucking little midgets. Yeah, I slapped the shit out of those guys. I don't know how to bully or anything, but these guys, I don't know if it's the internet or what have you, but these people out there exist. They didn't exist back in these days, man. You kept your mouth shut or you got your ass kicked. You didn't run to the cops and cause problems either. You'll learn to either you're a tough guy or you're not, and you'll learn how to keep your mouth shut. Or if you were a badass and you did your thing. These guys that run around nowadays are just absolute fools. On the UFC, come on, really? Any of these guys, I'm gonna cut some slack. Say anybody that I don't even know what the weight classes are, but like 180 pounds or lower, better keep your mouth shut. These little ding dongs that run around acting like they're tough. Who the hell are you guys? You're nothing. You went to house parties back in your day and you walked around the house and thought you were tough. You get your ass kicked by a legion of football players at that point in time. God. And we all know football players aren't just because they're big or strong or not the best fighters. Um, Weight class is for a reason. And you guys, I'm sorry to say this to you, you're little, you're ankle biters, you're not tough people. Just because they come up with some sport that is like midget wrestling. How many midget wrestling WrestleManias are there? No one cares. These are little fools. Oh wow, I'm going off, huh? But I love you
Yeah.
guys. I
Actually,
love you.
surprising there's three touring midget companies these days, but it's a sideshow act.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or they're wearing their cowboy hats and running around like they're tough
Dressing
guys.
up. One of them looks like Ozzy Osbourne and stuff. But
Well, that's with those guys that dye their hair now. Seriously, in society back when I grew up, not now. God, I don't even know what it is. This is I live out in the middle of nowhere. But who do you have you ever been beat up? I don't think these guys have been beat up. These guys need to get their ass kicked, and then they know to keep their mouth shut.
Yep.
And then you got these pussies out there, like I'm not gonna say names, but are you kidding me? Like, when did you wake up? And this is to say for anything, like you ride a motorcycle or something like a BMX motorcycle, and you talk shit like you're a tough guy, and you fucking couldn't even beat up a fucking high school wrestler. I mean, you're an idiot. You're you just haven't got your ass kicked. Back in my day, everybody knew how to behave. At least I was at the tail end of it. Like when my father was alive, he would go out and kick ass and not have to worry about the cops coming to get him because you want to cry like a little bitch. So the last guy that sent me to jail was a little fucking crybaby. Little fucking pussy. I mean, you know what? I obviously people tell me things that I haven't heard his name in decades, but last I heard he was a fucking piece of shit. I was sent me to jail, but guess what? Where you are in life now, serving tables somewhere at the local norms.
Someone's asking why you never fought Tito Ortiz. Different weight classes, but how did you guys do in practices when you guys would
Are
face
you
off?
Tito's pathetic. That shows that right there shows Tito Ortiz. I probably have literally over maybe it's conservative over 50 hours forehead to forehead with that guy. And that guy has never, ever, ever, he might have taken me down here and there, when you do takedowns and it gets boring and you try for a dumbass move that you never do in a match, like like a low single or something stupid and getting taken down like that. But he's never, ever, ever dominated more than 3 minutes ever out of 50 hours. And that guy's I don't want to get into that whole scene. I was watching those things, those reels, and I was watching the Howard Stern, and he's got this fucking idiot on there, and all the answers are just retarded answers, and it's that Beetlejuice guy. And I was listening to him, he's like, the guy's special needs, obviously, in the whole 9 yards. But I was sitting there and I feel for him for that. But you know what? I'm sitting there going, man, this guy really sounds familiar. And I'm not like, obviously everybody knows who Beetlejuice is. But I go, man, all these answers sound familiar and how it just, the logic behind his reasoning is just pathetic. And, obviously he's got problems. And I got all of a sudden the light bulb turned on. Like people like to say shit about an epiphany went off, the light bulb went off, and it went on. I had an epiphany, and the light bulb went on. That's fucking Tito Ortiz's logic. Everything that guy says, man. I had to pinch myself and go, that's not Beetlejuice, that's Tito. That's how dumb that guy is. And they take him and they bought the UFC and these clowns just because they don't like tough guys like the people that were fighting in the UFC. They start these weight classes. Tito couldn't fight himself out of a wet paper bag, and we all know he's as bright as Beetlejuice. And they make a star out of the guy. He's about as pathetic as those woke guys that run around with flags, running around with Mexican flags saying "Get out of America" or whatever. What the hell is going on? Tito comes running down that thing with his Mexican flag. He doesn't even know how to speak Spanish, and everybody behind him. Mostly all the reels are him and his dumbass remarks like Beetlejuice, but that guy can't fight. The reason why, the only thing accolade that he has that is wrestling known is him being um, I think that's why I'm hesitant on this. He was a state champion, I think, in junior college, but he was like 20, 21, 22 years old. And he in the high school, he was like 19. He's like held back through things. So he's a man wrestling college kids. And that's how he became state champion. It's not because he was some uh, athletic dynamo or something like that. He is just a, I don't want to say a victim, but a person that used age and that especially in that time frame to his advantage.
Here's something interesting about his ex-wife. She admitted to being with approximately 100 women and 30 men off screen and has had approximately 780 male partners on screen. He was very proud of to be with her, but I mean, that's a lot.
She was his girlfriend, and his first wife. Um, he he learned from her, his first wife, how to divorce somebody because his first wife came out on the positive side of the legal battles on that, and she took him took at that time. I don't think he had that much money, and then he hooked up with Janet Jameson, who had all the money, and like see that face right there? He's a retrobate, man. That guy is just a thief. He's like sitting there plotting his way to steal all our money. And then they bought a house in the harbor. It's her house. And I think she put it off to her kids. And he finally wore out his welcome and had to move to Florida after after all these. I don't get how all these people like vote him in to be uh, mayor pro tem of Huntington Beach. You know what a scoundrel idiot that guy is, and you're gonna vote him to lead your town or city. Unbelievable. Just like, oh, let's make a star out of him in the UFC. Dana's got some empathetic values and try to help him out, and he turns around and stabs him in the back and does all these things. All these fighter guys think they're like all of a sudden they're the Donald Trumps of the art of the deal, and they're gonna get the money that Dana's gonna make because they're smarter than he is. Absolute fools. That's a whole weight class category. After they bought it from Meyerowitz, they came up with that whole thing. That's all ego driven.
Did you ever meet Sunny? Just speaking of women that have been with a lot of guys, because she was in WCW for a while, but I don't know if the times
Yeah,
crossed
no.
over or not.
If she was around, I never talked to her. I don't think I really talked to any of the girls there. Not that are on TV.
This guy says, "Welcome to politics," with the biggest shitbags getting elected a lot of the times.
Oh, Tito's proof of that.
Well, Tank, you've been very kind with your time tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
Answered a lot of questions here. You've got an Instagram account, tank.abbott. Tank Podcast on Twitter. I don't know if you still have control of the Twitter or not, or if you regained it. Do you know?
I don't even know anything about
Okay.
it.
Well, it seems like someone shares some of your stuff on there, and at one point you had a podcast and you created that, from what I understand. But Instagram, you post stuff.
Yeah,
Your workouts are going well, I assume.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything's going good. It's a a rough road, man. I put my body through the ringer, man. It's hard. Strokes will kick your ass. And I know what's going on, but trying to make it function sometimes is a struggle. But I don't care.
And your
Here
buddy
now.
Don Fry is apparently back drinking again. That's the rumor through the grapevine. Not that that matters, but hopefully he can get himself together so he doesn't need a liver transplant one day.
You have to do some work to get that. One thing I can tell you, I'm a pretty hardcore person, and I don't have a soft liver, but it's not a contest or a challenge or anything like that. But I've never met anybody who could drink like me.
Yeah.
It's not like woohoo, look at me, I'm this and that. I don't give a rat's ass. I wish I could drink right now if I could. I would be drunk right now. But my physical body can't handle it. I like living more.
And you have an amazing life. You've got a dream life, and I'm really happy to have you included in my Blood Hunter Thirst and Rage movie that fans, you'll be able to see him on that this fall. And I'll let John and you close this off. I'm checking out. Always great hearing from you, Tank.
Oh, yo.
Thank you, Tank. Appreciate all the time. Thank you for answering all the WCW questions. Appreciate it.
Yeah. You got any more you want to know about?
No, we're good. Thank you. I appreciate all the time tonight. Thank you so much.
All right, my man. You have a good one.